Welcome to Below the Line with Dr. Benny L. Harris. The Chancellor of the University of South Carolina Upstate talks with top leaders about issues such as change, technology, education, and leadership. Please enjoy.
I'm here with Carol Tomé, Chief Executive Officer of UPS. Carol, welcome to Below the Line.
Well, Chancellor, it's great to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I know how very busy you are, so I'm going to jump right in if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
I'd like to start at the beginning or near there. Your career began with a job as a commercial lender. What drew you to banking and to business in the first place?
Well, I was born and raised in Jackson, Wyoming.
Okay.
And my father was a community banker. And so during the summers, I would work for my dad and always envisioned that one day when I got through college, I would go back to Jackson and actually work for Dad and then take over the bank one day. But that didn't happen. In my last year of school, graduate school, actually, my father called me and said, I've got some news. And I'm like, well, what's the news? He said, well, after 27 years of marriage, I'm divorcing your mother.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, that's just awful. And then he said, and I'm selling the bank.
Okay.
And all of a sudden it was like, what? Now it's all about
All
me.
of your plans have
All
changed.
my plans had changed. But, you know, in some ways it was an amazing blessing because I told myself I'll be a banker. Took one interview in school and I was hired in as a commercial lender at the United Bank of Denver, now Wells Fargo.
Oh, yes. So it's full circle. There's a lot packed in there that we never
Yes.
be able to talk about today. You had retired after 25 years at Home Depot when UPS came knocking at your door in the late 2019, asking you to leave the global shipping and logistic giant. What was your first reaction?
Well, candidly, my first reaction, don't you think I'm too old? I was 62 years old at the time. But the
That
board.
was young now.
Yeah.
Come on.
The board said, look, our retirement age is 75, so we don't think you're too old.
Okay. What did you learn during your time at Home Depot that you were able to apply to your leadership position at UPS?
You know, I was very fortunate to start at Home Depot back in 1995 when the company had 400 stores and revenues of just $14 billion. And I worked for the great founders of that company, Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank and Ken Langone. And the lesson that they taught me, which was so impactful, was a different kind of management structure. They called it the inverted pyramid. Typically in corporations, the CEO is at the top of the pyramid and the people who are serving the customers are at the bottom. Well, Bernie and Arthur, they flipped that pyramid around. So the CEO and the senior leaders are at the bottom of the pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid are the people who take care of the customers. Because you see, if you're at the bottom of the pyramid, you bear the weight for the actions that you take and the decisions that you make. You bear that weight so you can free up your people to take care of their customers. It's really servant leadership.
Yeah.
And to me, it was the biggest lesson I've ever learned. And I continue to live that lesson every day.
Yeah. You know that there was a lot of research done around the servant leadership pyramid, and Home Depot and several other corporations have really epitomized that.
Yes.
And UPS is well known for their team members and their employees. I was telling someone when I was in college, had I known what I know today, I would have taken one of those UPS jobs as a college student before it went public too.
Great jobs, yeah.
So
great
you were
jobs.
described in the media as an atypical choice, given that you had served on UPS board since 2003, but hadn't worked for the company. From what I understand, you saw yourself as almost an interim CEO, helping out until internal candidates were better prepared for the job. Why do you think they came to you in that particular situation?
Well, UPS has a history of promoting from within.
Okay.
And when David Abney was getting ready to retire, he too wanted to promote from within. But the company said, are we sure we have the right skills and attributes of the next leader, given the change that's happening in the logistics industry? So they worked with a third party to create a CEO scorecard of the future, including the skills and attributes that the next CEO needed to possess.
Okay.
And when we matched that persona up against the existing leadership team, nobody really fit. It was a tremendous leadership team, but nobody really fit. So the company and board decided to go outside to look for a CEO. And they came to me and said, well, Carol, we think you fit. And I'm like, me? I fit. And I was surprised by that, but also very delighted and honored. But I was fully retired. And I'm like, why? why would I come out of retirement to take this opportunity? And so I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, well, first of all, I'm a values-based person, and my values are aligned with the company because it's a values-based company, so check.
Yeah.
Then secondly, I love to develop people. To your specific question, I love to develop people, and I thought, well, if I get inside, I can develop the next CEO, so we can continue this tradition of promoting from within. Then I also like to create value, and the stock had been flat for a number of years. I'm like, well, if I get inside, I think I could figure out the dials to turn to create some value. And then, I just celebrated my 40th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I went to my husband, Ramon. I'm like, well, what do you think? What do you think about this? And he said, would you please go back to work? You are driving me crazy. So I'm like, all right, check. So everything was falling into order. But, I was still wrestling with it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, gosh, am I really up for this? This is a big job. Am I really up for this? And truthfully, I was working out one day with my trainer, and I said to Saida, I'm like, Saida, I don't know. I don't know if this is for me. And she said to me, just like trainers do, right in my face, she said, Carol, you have to do this. Yeah. You must do this for the women of the world. And I'm like, oh, right. Check. Yeah. So I was really honored and privileged to be named the incoming CEO in March of 2020.
Correct.
A week before
the pandemic hit. We're going to talk about those.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
But I think you did an amazing job. And I do want to say, it's a late congratulations, but I do want to say congratulations. Well, I actually think I said congratulations.
You did.
You did it. But I've watched some of your hires, and you've done an amazing job. I've watched how you really looked at the market, looked at where things were going from a logistics perspective, and you brought in people and team, marketing people, all those types of things that help position the company.
Well, thank you.
In that positive direction. So, and I met your husband as well.
That's right, you did,
and
exactly.
Your philanthropy is amazing. So we're not going to talk about that. There's so much stuff packed in your life that we can talk about, but I'm going to stay focused on our script for a minute, the questions I prepared. So I understand in 2020, when you took the job, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And you were hunkering down with your leadership team to figure out how to get through COVID-19.
Yeah.
And plot a course for the future. What did all that look like? How did it feel to be leading the company at that tumultuous time, particularly as holiday shopping and shipping volume never slowed? I know you wanted to go on a listening tour, but obviously that had to shell. How did that feel during that time?
Yeah, well, looking back, it was chaotic. It's hard to describe what it was like. Imagine this. We knew that we were essential workers,
right.
But we didn't have the protective gear to keep our people safe. So it was a mad dash to gather around the world masks and hand sanitizers and gloves just to keep our people safe. All we could tell our people to do was wash your hands but we knew we had to keep going. And, we did keep going. In the second quarter of 2020, we had to hire 45,000 people in the quarter just to handle the volume that was coming our way. But we did that. We did that because we knew that we needed to keep commerce flowing around the world. Mm-hmm. Imagine the work that we had to do in China to keep our pilots flying into China. The work that we needed to do with the governments around the world to ensure that we could keep commerce moving. At the same time, we knew what got us here wasn't going to get us to where we needed to go because the world around us was changing. Looking through that pandemic, we knew the world around it was changing. So we did a number of things to focus on what really wildly matters, And we did that through an exercise that we called a red-green dot exercise.
Okay.
We had every initiative up on the walls in a conference room. And I gave the leadership team 10 red dots and 10 green dots.
Okay.
The green dots were to be put up on initiatives that should stay in place. The red dots were to be placed on initiatives we should stop.
Okay.
All the green dots went up, not a single red dot.
Okay, that happens.
So I told the team, I said, we're not leaving until the red dots get up. So the red dots went up, and then we stood back and looked at the wall, and we saw all the initiatives that had no dots. There was no energy, good or bad, if you will, no energy against those dots. So it was easy to stop the red dots. We stopped most of the no dots and focused on the green dots.
Okay.
And one of the green dots was cold chain logistics. because we were convinced at some point there would be a vaccine against COVID-19, and we wanted to make sure that we would be ready to deliver that vaccine.
Okay.
So we invested in cold chain logistics in a major big way. In fact, we have our own dry ice manufacturing facilities. We have cold chain laboratories, just special logistics within our small package logistics network to make sure we can deliver those vaccines on time. In fact, we put a label on the vaccines we called UPS Premier, which means we never, ever lose that vaccine, no matter where it is. And so when the COVID vaccines became available to the marketplace, we were the first delivery company to deliver those vaccines. And we delivered over 1 billion vaccines in the first year at 99.9% effectiveness, which means we were perfect, nearly perfect.
That's what I was about to say. The
nearly
precision
perfect.
that it takes to do that level and that volume of logistics.
Crazy. And it was a commercial business for us, but we also had a philanthropic arm. So in places of the world like Rwanda, where it was very difficult to get the vaccines delivered, we delivered them using drones.
Yeah, okay.
Way cool, right?
Yeah.
So it was some and some, right? A commercial business, a philanthropic business to really help move the world forward. And it was one of my proudest moments to see how the UPSers stood up tall during that time, as well as during the advent of the COVID-19 vaccines.
I don't think people hear the stories of UPS and the essential workers and the effort it took to put vaccines into remote villages and the drones that you use and those type of things from a humanitarian perspective, really, which is amazing. So I really applaud you and your team.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So I understand there was a situation in China
where
a sorting facility security guard tested positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
So 200 UPS employees were quarantined in their building for 3 days. You had to provide food and water until they could leave. Tell me more about that particular UPS experience and how you joined the fight. You talked about the cold storage facilities, those doses, but that particular experience there.
I think that experience showcases the amazing culture of UPS.
Okay.
We are a can-do culture. Leave it with me, consider it done.
Yeah.
Leave
it with me,
consider it done.
I like that.
Yeah, those UPS Chinese employees said, okay, we're going to continue to sort packages and get them ready for delivery, even though we can't go home because we have to be quarantined. They slept on cement floors.
Wow.
There were no shower facilities in the room. You could in the building. It's like a warehouse, right? But they were okay. They knew that they had a job to do. Now they tell me that the food that we shipped in was better than the food they were getting at home. So maybe that helped a little bit. But can you imagine sleeping on the floor? Cold cement floor just to get it done. It's a commitment.
I think it's the culture that you create. You talked about that pyramid again. It goes back to that servant leadership model where you serve your team members exceptionally well.
Yes.
And they'll work, and the shareholders will make money. The companies will do well if you invest in your team.
If you take care of your people, everything else takes care of itself.
So this takes me straight to the company's stock price went up at that point. If I recall correctly, and the market seemed to say they believe in you as the CEO of UPS. Do you think you brought a unique value as someone who hadn't worked at UPS before as an employee, paid employee?
Well, I do think I brought in a different perspective. I was sort of an inside-outsider because I had been on the board for a while, so I did respect the core of our company, which is our culture. But I did bring a different perspective on end-to-end. We were really focused on the shipper experience, and I believed we needed to be focused on the recipient experience as much as the shipper. Because if you think about what had changed in the small package environment during COVID is before about 50% of our business was commercial, 50% was residential. Well, it was now like 65% residential. So we were delivering one package at a time at a house. We needed to make sure that experience was as good as what the shippers were experiencing. And so we put together 16 customer journeys to really address customer pain points end to end and really move the needle in that regard. We declared that we wanted our net promoter score to move from what had been 30 to 50, and we're at 50 today.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Can you share with me some of the thinking behind the company's mission statement, and what does it really mean to you?
Yeah. So when I got here, I'm like, we know what we do. We move 6% of the U.S. GDP every day. We move 2% of the world's GDP. We know what we do, but we hadn't declared our why,
Okay.
our purpose. So I'm like, we really need to declare our why. So I put together a cross-functional team of UPSers, and I said, this is your job, to declare our why. And they did a really masterful job of going on a listening tour, and they interviewed customers and employees and retirees and communities and vendors, and iterated and iterated and iterated and landed on our why. And this is it. Moving our world forward by delivering what matters.
Moving our world. Say that again. Just pause.
Moving our world forward by delivering what matters.
That's your why.
That's our why. And why I like that so much, it's not just about moving goods, it's about doing good too.
Yeah.
And if you think about our workforce, we're over 400,000 employees here at UPS. Most of our employees are employed under some sort of a collective bargaining agreement, be it Teamsters or pilots or mechanics or works councils outside the United States. And we needed to make sure there was one commonality amongst our workforce. And to me, it was purpose, because everybody can understand that.
Yes.
Moving our world forward by delivering what matters.
The way you articulate that and share that, it really puts a personality to UPS. It's easy for individuals to talk about their why and not their what, but for a major corporation of this size to speak to your mission statement within that context really gives it a personality, which is bigger than a brand to me.
It's bigger than a brand,
So automation seemed to be start playing a bigger role after you joined the company, particularly after UPS completed labor talks that would pay more to Teamster. Has technology helped you to boost sales to cover those kinds of costs? And how has technology helped UPS? Any challenges there?
Well, gosh, as I think about our company, in many ways, I think we are a tech company. We deliver 25 million packages a day around the world. And the way we do that is with an integrated network that's powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's a very complicated network to think about it. And so technology powers that network. And, it's really pretty impressive when you think about what we do, because it's a hub and spoke network.
It really is, yes.
It truly is a hub and spoke network. If you are using our air product, all the aircraft flies in and out of Worldport, which is our main air hub in Louisville, Kentucky. All of it.
Okay.
All of it. That's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
If you drop off a package at a UPS store, you think it's going to get on a package car and delivered to your destination? Well, not necessarily. It may go to Louisville before it gets to your destination.
And still get there within...
Oh, definitely. Within the
designated
destination time frame. So this technology powers us, but it's more than that. If you think about inside of our buildings, we still have a lot of manual processes inside of our buildings, and we are all in on investing in automation in that regard. So imagine this. We have people who are putting labels on packages.
Yeah.
We can have robots do that work. We have people who are putting packages into bags. We have robots that can do that work. We have people who load and unload trailers. We are testing robots to do that work. One of the coolest things we've done from technology perspective is put RFID tagging on our packages. We launched that last year and rolled it out throughout the United States. And here's the cool thing. Before we had the RFID tag on our package, 1 in every 400 packages was loaded onto the wrong package car.
Okay.
They just made a mistake. Well, if it's loaded onto the wrong package car, it can't get delivered. It goes out for delivery. It's not on the right route. So it's brought back to the building, has to go through the sorting process again. Well, now with the RFID technology, we've dropped the error rate from 1 in 400 to now 1 in 2,000.
Okay,
so it's a better customer experience, and it's a better productivity metric. Now, the next thing we're doing with these RFID tags is, rather than having our UPSers check the packages into the car is going to check the package. It recognizes the package when you walk the package into the car. How cool is that?
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So more productivity, better accuracy. And now we're moving upstream so that our shippers can print the RFID tags at their shipping docks, and that way they have they scan it at the pickup rather than at the destination, which also reduces errors, and it can help with their inventory management. So technology is cool. Now I haven't even talked about Gen AI.
There's a lot of. Matter of fact, I'm hosting a conference within the upstate of South Carolina around generative AI.
Oh, are you?
And its impact on the work force. And so I heard someone say that it's not AI that we should be concerned about taking jobs. It's people who knows how to operate AI.
No, exactly.
So that speaks to what are the skills that the new workforce, the new human workforce, is going to need to operate this new environment that you and so many others are creating.
It's really about critical thinking, because you're no longer doing, you're actually thinking.
Our humanities faculty are going to love hearing that.
But it's true.
Yes.
You know, at first when generative AI was really launched, I'm like, oh, what does this really mean for the workforce? And then I'm like, this is way cool, because it's going to make us better thinkers, actually. And we will be faster. We will be faster and smarter. I think your students today are a lot smarter than I was when I was a kid. Oh my gosh. Just think about the next generation. It's so doggone exciting. It really is.
I have a great nephew who's I think he's 14 months, and he gets my mother-in-law's phone and FaceTime his mom when she's keeping him. And she's like, I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he unlocks it, but he gets it, and he's FaceTiming, talking to his mom.
At 14 months? Oh, wow.
But anyway, that's amazing, and I look forward to more of that conversation, reading about what would happen. So I would like to talk about below the line.
Okay.
Leading below the line. What I mean by that is that oftentimes we don't know what's going on beneath the surface for leaders and for their teams, and we have to dive in, find out exactly what's at play in order to make a project or a plan successful. You yourself went below the line when you were preparing your speech about becoming CEO of UPS, pivoting after the news of George Floyd's death. You shared what you were feeling inside. Did that seem like a risk at the time?
Well, it's an interesting question. You know, I had filmed a video, and it was going to run around the world, and it was, you know, we're going to kick ass and we're going to have some fun. You know, it was really a pumped up, positive video. And then the George Floyd killing occurred, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't run that video without telling UPSers how I feel, because they don't really know me. They don't know me. They need to know how I feel about this. So I wrote a letter about how I felt, and we ran the letter before we did the video, because I wanted people to know how I felt. And I didn't think it was a risk. I thought it was important for people to know me for me. And so I'm glad I did it. As it relates to social matters, you know, I let our values guide our actions. You know, in the George Floyd matter, I'm like, there's no place for hate in the world. There's certainly no place for hate at UPS. We will do everything in our power to be a safe place. To be a safe place.
And actually, I think that whole action epitomizes what below the line is about. Because oftentimes it's the feeling, the emotion, the knowledge of who's leading us that alleviates the anxiety of your team members in terms of how they participate, how they come and show up to new ideas, to the dots that you put on the wall.
I think so. I think so, and it's about building deposits, right? If you build deposits because people really know you and you've built up a trust, if you need to take a withdrawal, and every once in a while we do, if we need to take a withdrawal, they're still going to trust you. They're still going to follow you.
Thank you. So I understand you have a farm in North Georgia.
I do.
What do you like about being there? Are you more of a rural person than a city person? Now in Montana, but are you more of a rural person than a city person?
So we love our farm. It's in a historic district. It's beautiful, and we have crops growing on our farm and horses, and I'm a big gardener. So and I have high-speed Wi-Fi, so I can stay plugged in, which is really important. So but I do feel when I get up there that my blood pressure drops a little bit, which is, I think, a good thing. So we are very blessed to have that. And if I had my druthers, you know, I can put on my Chanel shoes and my Dior bag and walk the streets of New York. But if I have my druthers, I'm in jeans on my farm. Okay. I'm a country girl.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I have one final question, Carol. Do you have a hero?
I would say today it's the men and women of UPS. They are my heroes and sheroes.
Thank you. Well, I'm here with Carol Tomé, CEO of UPS. Carol, thank you so very much. You've given us such wonderful nuggets and great information to digest and to process. And again, thank you for all the people of the world for your leadership, not just your leadership as a CEO, but your leadership as a woman CEO. It's meaningful and makes a difference. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chancellor.
The Below the Line podcast is brought to you by the University of South Carolina Upstate. Look for our monthly write-up in Greenville Business Magazine, and for more information, go to uscupstate.edu.